Hey guys, I'm learning TFT. In this video, I'm going to go through the best artifact item holders in 1424. There is a B patch coming out today, but I suspect that most of this data will still hold. And I'm going to talk about why each of these artifacts are good on these units. And I've started to post my aggregate learnings from this research process on Twitter, and this post went viral, has like 129,000 views, 1.5 thousand likes. So I figured I didn't get the chance yesterday to actually talk through the artifacts, so I'm going to do that in this video. So as a legend, the first row here is a 3.0, second row, well, third row is 3.5, fourth row is 4.0, and these are like kind of in between. So that gives you an idea of how strong these are. So we'll start off with Victor. Victor with Silvermere Dawn and Horizon Focus are extremely strong because it stuns the units anytime they're attacked. And Victor's auto attack is a death ray that hits all units in a 2-hex line. So Silvermere just stuns everybody that Victor hits. So he's basically stunning people like left and right. And Silvermere locks the holder's attack speed at 0.5, but Victor's attack speed with Herald Machine already locks his attack speed at 0.55. So he actually doesn't even get this attack speed nerf from Silvermere Dawn, I believe. Or even if it does, it's like marginal difference. Horizon Focus, whenever a unit is stunned, deals 30% of their max health. So every time Victor does a board stun, it's like a 30% damage stun to the entire board, which is completely broken. Violet, I suspect will get nerfed in the B patch, so this will still probably be good, but maybe not as good. Fishbones is up here. Someone in the Twitter mentioned that this is likely skewed by 5 family because it's actually a cash out in 5 family. But even if you were to filter out 5 family in the stats, I believe it actually goes somewhere like over here maybe, or at worst over here. So it's still actually quite good. And Fishbones basically allows her to be somewhere safer. You could put her second row, even back row, because she just like attacks random people. And it allows you to build more damage instead of sustain. You don't have to build like QSS or Edge of Night. You could build like IE Hodge, for example, on her. And she might be able to just like snipe down units that are behind an enemy tank. Suspicious Trenchcoat is extremely broken with Edge of Night and Sterax and or BT. Anything that after she splits up allows her to with Edge of Night, like have an extra life basically, or have an additional shield. Just gives her more sustainability. And if you have 3 Violets that are just punching and stunning, it's extremely broken. Mel has a low mana cost at 40, so Lichbane is really good with her, similar to Kog'Maw. And Blighting Jewel allows her, because she like is like Kaisa from that old set, she hits a bunch of units and like has a bunch of deals magic damage to a bunch of units, then this Blighting Jewel gets to proc more. Nocturne with Fishbones, Sniper's Focus, RFC are all extremely good. Anything that gives him attack range so that he's just safer is very strong. Violet with Spectral Cutlass. We just talked about Fishbones. Spectral Cutlass was buffed in the new set. Gives more armor and magic resist than the previous in set 12. So it just allows her to snipe down the enemy backline. If you are positioning against an enemy Violet, then you might want to position similar to how you did against Assassins in the past, where you can put, like, let's say your Mel is here. You could put like a bunch of tanks to surround so that Violet will like jump here and put aggro onto these two before on your main carry. Powder with Mana Zane can cast a bunch. one of the biggest weaknesses of Powder is that she usually can cast once in a fight or at most twice and then she's dead. But if you can cast 2 or 3 times, she can actually deal a lot of damage. Deathfire Grasp, if you can put her in front of like an enemy like 3-star Blitzcrank super tank, if she blasts them for 40% of their max health and has increased AP and damage amp, allows her to really take down super tanks. You can even frontline her right in front of the enemy super tank, and it can actually deal a good amount of damage. Draven with Fishbones and RFC, just anything with attack speed, is extremely good. And with Fishbones, it can allow him to take down an enemy backliner without having to take down the frontliner. Violet with Death's Defiance and Mittens, both good. These are just standard bruiserish items. Vander, if you can get Vander 3 with Anima, is extremely strong because Vander's ability gives him a bunch of armor and MR, and with Watcher, he already has damage reduction. So really the last piece of the puzzle that he's missing is HP and healing, and Animate Visage gives him all of that. Light Shield Crest is good because it gives a shield from the combined armor and MR, which he gets a huge armor MR buff from his ability, so it synergizes really nicely. Innervating Locket is good for super tanks that want to cast more, and Vander does want to cast more, and it gives him that healing again, similar to Anima Visage, where every time he casts, he gets more armor MR, it allows him to heal, so it's just extremely synergistic. Blitzcrank with the newly buffed Automata, especially if you can get 6 Automata with 140 armor and magic resist, is like, I forget if that's stronger than 6 Sentinel. 42 times 3 is 126 compared to 140. Yeah, 6 Sentinel is 140. So it's actually more armor and magic resist than 6 Sentinel. So Light Shield Crest, similar to why it's good on Vander, is very good on a 3-star Blitzcrank. Violet with Silvermere Dawn, just very good melee item. Prowler's Claw lets her bounce around, take down enemy backline carries. Infinity Force just gives her everything she wants. And RFC on Violet, also quite good for the same reason that Fishbones would be good. Gives her just more survivability, and then you can build more damage on her. Singed 3, if you are playing Renata reroll, is a scaling shielding comp. The way Renata works, if you're not familiar, she shields allies, and you usually build Archangel Staff on her. And if you have a Singe that's also healing percent max HP with a lot of Sentinels, usually play this with 6 Sentinels in the capped version. And Singed, his ability has built-in durability, especially if you build like a Crown Guard on him to get more AP scaling on his durability. This could become unkillable, especially if you hit ahead of tempo with this. Nocturne, more melee. These are all good melee items. Wit's End is very good for units that attack a lot. So especially if you build a lot of attack speed, and Quick Striker already gives him a lot of attack speed, so it just fits really well with Wit's End. It's kind of like Cassidon from set 12. Blitzcrank 3 with Unending Despair. Anytime the shield breaks, deals a bunch of damage, and Blitzcrank gets a lot of shielding, and that shielding scales with Dominator. Every time he casts, his AP grows, so his shield grows, and so then Unending Despair's damage value increases over time as well. Blitzcrank can use the HP and AP from this and just makes him overall like a lot more tanky. Armor magic resist, good for that shield value. And then Innervating Locket, similar to Vander, just makes him, especially if he's 3-star, Dominators is already a like kind of scaling comp that wants the fight to last a while, and Innervating Locket supports that strategy. Kog'Maw with Lichbane, good for the same reason as it is with Mel. He has a 40 mana cast. So the more you cast, the more ability damage you deal. When you have this, you want to build it with mana items and or Rageblade, you don't need Archangel because this is your main damage source. You just want him to cast more. You don't need Archangel for additional damage. Wit's End, you want attack speed with this for the same reason as Nocturne. Just dishes out a ton of damage and heals him. And Zhonya's just allows him to go infinite. And in that last kind of bit where he could 1v2, 1v3 enemy units with that invulnerability at the end of a fight. Powder with Zhonya's, you could basically frontline her and she could deal a bunch of damage. It gives her hopefully an extra cast. Blinding Jewel, her ability wounds and burns, so the Blinding Jewel allows her to hopefully cast more if she gets the enemy's magic resist down to 0. I believe this stacks with like Spark, so if you build a Spark nearby, then it can allow the enemy to get to 0 faster, which would allow her to generate mana more quickly. Ludens is good for Powder because she does a lot of overkill, and it allows her to not waste that overkill damage and can kind of trigger a chain effect with her ability. Draven with Gold Collector, very strong, gives him a lot of just ability to kill off units faster, which is great with Conquer, and lets you tempo. Either if you have the Violet reroll line, if you have like Artifactory. By the way, if you can get multiple artifacts with Artifactory or Jason counter and like Portable Forge, and you combine artifacts, it's extremely strong. Just lets you get a lot more gold for both hitting your 3 stars and pushing levels. Sniper's Focus, that additional damage amp is extremely strong. Basically turns him into a sniper. And Talisman can be good because he's usually just in the back line chipping away. And if you have like a Conqueror frontline or a Violet 3 and like a Vander 3, usually you'll be able to hit this 22 seconds and then he can just clean up the fight. Nocturne with Spectral Cutlass, similar to Violet with Spectral Cutlass, very good. Violet's more tanky than Nocturne though, so that's why it's a little bit weaker than it is for Violet, but still quite good at taking out enemy backline carries in a traditional front-to-back fight. Mittens, good, more movement speed, immunity, chill. And then these are like kind of 4.0, so not as strong, still solid. But Corki with Gold Collector, Twitch with Gold Collector as well as 0.1 lower. And Bessa with Suspicious Trenchcoat, similar to Violet, is quite good. She can, with her cast, when she switches from range to melee form, can put herself into danger. And so having this Suspicious Trenchcoat just allows her to have more survivability. And again, if you can build it with Edge of Night, Sterax, BT, some combination of those, especially Edge of Night Sterax is extremely strong. Vi with Spectral Cutlass, very good. I mean, Vi just is basically grown-up Violet, right? Stun with the Horizon Focus is decent. And then Unending Despair, she also has a shield every time she casts, so that gives her just more damage, and the armor and HP help as well. Akali with Ludens is useful because she does a lot of burst damage on one single target, and so that then she doesn't waste that extra damage. These are all good melee items, especially the Zhonya's on Akali. She's an AP unit, so she benefits more from Zhonya's than like Nocturne would. Silco with Mana Zane, very good. Dominators, you just want to be able to cast more, since every time they cast, they get stacking AP. Twisted Fate with Horizon Focus. Every time he casts, throws 3 cards, and the yellow card will stun. So, yeah, just deals a lot more damage with that stun. But it is single target stun, so it's not as strong as like a Victor, for example. Ludens, if you have a 3-star, because he's throwing cards at 3 enemies, 2 of which deal damage, the overkill can be wasted. So just Ludens makes him more consistent. Twitch with Gold Collector. Both Corki and Twitch are solid with Gold Collector because their abilities. So Corki unleashes like 21 missiles split between enemies, and Twitch for the next 8 attacks gets infinite range, and pierces enemies, so it goes through enemies and like can usually hit the whole board. So both of their abilities can proc the 12% execute because they're hitting so many units. Kog'Maw with Gambler's Blade, you really need to have Rage Blade with Gambler's Blade for this to be effective. It's really good and can let you generate enough gold to hit your 3 stars, since 3 cost 3 stars are very expensive. Draven, again, you want Rage Blade with this, can generate you a lot of gold as well. So that covers all of the artifact best item holders. The methodology I used for this was to go through meta TFT, and I basically went through all of the top units here, and I mainly looked at units with like above 500, mostly above 1,000 play rate, so it's not low sample size, and I filtered out 5 costs because they're just too inconsistent. So I will include a link to my notes here, so you can see, like, for example, RFC Mordekaiser is quite strong, or Jinx Gold Collector, but I didn't include the 5 costs here just because they're so inconsistent, though I did include Mel and Victor here just because their AVP were so strong. Like, these are like completely broken, whereas the 5 costs, there weren't as many that jumped out to that degree. And yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. If I missed anything or you disagree with any analysis, you have additional thoughts to add, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.